Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Donnie.
And I'm Nick, and today we're rambling with Jeremy Hatt about the Chimney Swifts, the Chimney Swift watch.
Well, that's
Did I
all good.
mess that
Chimney
up?
Swift. No, it's good. It's fine. Chimney Swift and Chimney Swift watch. I'm
Is
sure we'll
is
ask.
it two separate things? Well, yeah,
Well,
technically, yeah.
they're Chimney Swifts, and this is a Chimney Swift watch site.
True,
So
true. I knew I was going to fold under pressure there.
don't worry. I'm pretty sure Jeremy will straighten us out throughout this period here. So yeah, thanks for coming along, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. So this is we're located here at the Epworth United Church in Kingsville. It's one of the probably the best site, and we're like all of Essex County.
All of Essex County, this site has the highest number of swifts that we've seen, like during a spring
Yeah.
and fall roost
Okay.
in the county.
And just to explain that Chimney Swifts, their name is kind of self-explanatory, but if you were to describe them, how would you describe these birds if people were to look up and see them?
So the classic description is cigar with wings. They're a small aerial bird. They literally look like a little cigar, long, narrow wings. In flight, they almost look like they fly like this, like
Teetering?
teetering. And very small feet as well, because they spend almost all their time in the air, at least during the day. But then their feet are just enough to kind of perch onto the side of a chimney or side of a cliff. You mentioned the name chimney being self-explanatory, but like just for a little bit of background on them, historically, they didn't nest in chimneys, of course. They were nesting in like large kind of hollow tree cavities.
Okay.
And then when Europeans came over and settled, and a lot of trees were taken down, forests taken down, they just adapted to an urban environment, and then chimneys were perfect for them for nesting and
So like
roosting.
the Industrial Revolution kind of.
Revolutionized their living.
Yeah.
Interesting. That doesn't happen very often with wildlife.
No,
Well,
but
it does, but
unfortunately too, it's also part of their demise, right?
It is. That's the irony, that they adapted really well to that, but then now we're updating chimneys. People are capping them to keep wildlife out, and so if it's not sort of the standard older chimney like we have behind us here at Epworth, then they have a lot more difficulty.
Now, I've been here before, and it's the newer chimney that they prefer. So like they have kind of upgraded their digs, eh? Like they used to probably use there is a few, like when we watch them going in, some of them use the old chimney, but they do seem to prefer the newer chimney. So are there people that are doing some proactive things to try and help with habitat for them now, or is it what, like the Chimney Swift watch? Let's go on a bit about that now, as far as other than just watching roost sites. Is there part of that as a proactive program to help?
Definitely. So Birds Canada is the organization that's behind Swift Watch, the program, and it's a lot about conservation and education. So they have actually tried building sort of fake chimneys as well. That's something that they are working on, but really right now these established chimneys are the ones that they are still trying to protect. So they will actually contact landowners and building owners and just, educate them that the swifts are not any problem to your building whatsoever. It's not causing any damage to the chimney. And just that kind of interaction will make them feel like stewards of the chimney. And then just, it's been really successful. Some places have taken it on and joined events. Like if you have a Swift Watch out there, the owners will come out and check it out and see what's going on. So that's like a big part of it is basically.
I got probably a stupid question here.
Oh, there we go.
Do they like? Obviously, they don't like. They don't breed here, right? Or do they breed?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the stupid question was, do they breed in like active chimneys? Like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Really?
yeah, because they can't really breed in the air, so it's done like within the roost.
Yeah, but like they'll roost in like an active chimney and like
Chimney's lit, so the fire, they're getting carbon monoxide. You're,
That's what-
you're
that's
worried
what-
about carbon
yeah.
monoxide poisoning?
something like that. Yeah.
Well, so like into the summer, basically, like we basically no longer use the chimney.
True. That was
There
Stupid
is no, it's
question,
not
Nick.
a stupid
Stupid
question.
question.
It's not a stupid question. There are some chimneys that like pretty late, even into May when they start. Like I notice sometimes greenhouse chimneys will still be running kind of later on, but most chimneys by the summer, once they arrive in May, just aren't being used anymore. So the timing works really well for them to use it as a site.
And then where do they go in like the winter months?
In the winter, like most other migrant birds, down into South America, so the north half of
They
South
have
America.
their own like southern chimneys. They like to hang out down there.
They do
like
the roost
trees
chimneys in the
and
south?
I imagine they could, but they also roost in caves as well. So that's
all right,
likely
that makes more sense, yeah.
the majority of what they do in the south. Yeah.
Because I looked up a picture before I came here. They do look like a very like nocturnal bird, almost like
Like a
kind
bat?
of creepy looking. Yeah.
Yeah, very bat-like.
Yeah,
Very bat-like.
absolutely.
So, when you see the roosts, typically, what's the highest number you've had here?
Over 400 in spring, and so that was around mid-May.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there's 400 in there. There's not 400 nests, right?
No.
So how does that work? How does that play out?
Only one pair generally nests in one chimney, regardless of how big the chimney is.
Really?
So, in a way, that's kind of part of the problem, is
Yeah.
that each nesting pair needs its separate chimney. Yeah, so they need
That
to
is,
spread out quite a bit.
No kidding.
Now, even in Harrow, like I see usually maybe 6, 7, 8 pairs through the spring into the summer, which I assume then are finding nesting chimneys. Kingsville's going to be the same. This is like sort of historically older towns. The new subdivisions obviously don't have chimneys at all. If they do, it's just a furnace like blowout. It's not really going to be suitable. So I'm guessing most of the good roost sites are in older towns, right? That have like older subdivisions, older streets that have potentially chimneys. Again, like we're saying there, even with the nesting, the chimneys aren't being used because we're in the summer months. So even in Kingsville here, there's probably not all 400 are nesting in Kingsville, but there's probably a decent amount of pairs, because even looking here, I can look over and see a house with a chimney straight away. So there's opportunities in an older town for them to nest. But is there any idea of the sort of success rates or anything in as far as nesting is concerned? Because again, we have talked about the breeding atlas. So how do you confirm the breeding of Chimney Swifts in your area?
For the first part, I mean, even in like within cities in Windsor, there are still quite a few chimneys, even old style, that they will. So, I mean, certainly numbers of chimneys are decreasing, but there's still like a fair amount currently for them to breed in. In terms of figuring out if they are nesting, usually like going to a chimney site, if you wait at least half an hour to 45 minutes, you should see a chimney either leave or enter the nest. That's about the time that they figured between like going in to feed the young.
Okay.
And so that can be like June, July that you can be checking, especially for the atlas, which would be great.
Yeah, that's something we've tried to promote, that it's important information. Hopefully people who are watching sort of start connecting with that they can be part of that, because there's not enough people to be, like, a roost site's nice to go to, but when we're talking about breeding, if somebody lives in an area where they've got some good old chimneys around, like you say, it only takes a half hour of sitting watching a chimney before you can kind of know if there's a chimney swift using that. Now, you're at that point, you're not really confirming if they are breeding, but it's pretty much, that's in the breeding codes, that would be,
They got a chance.
that'd be accepted as far as.
Definitely. And during the day, it makes it more likely as well. If you're out in the evening looking at a chimney, there might be one that goes in to roost, even like an unmated bird.
Okay.
But if it's like middle of the day and a chimney is entering the nest, that's pretty much you can put down as confirmed breeding if it's during the safe dates of the atlas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do they prefer larger ones to roost in then? Usually,
For roosting,
just because you can put way more in there, kind of deal.
Definitely.
It's all-
And in the early, when they're first arriving in May, like this year, it was still like quite cold at the
Yeah.
beginning of May. So if they have a larger number able to roost in a chimney, they'll actually gather and sometimes even like overlap onto each other
Stay
in the
warm
chimney.
kinda thing.
So
Huh.
yeah. And then post breeding season, they start to congregate, like families will leave smaller nesting sites and congregate in larger groups, and then they sort of move to larger chimneys for roosting before moving on as well. Yeah, but for nesting, it doesn't matter, big or small.
Pretty cool bird. I'm pretty impressed.
Like,
I don't know.
when you
It's
look
really
at some
cool.
of the even they're not very often pictured perching, right?
Yeah, so that-
they're always pictured in flight, and they're hard to get flight pictures. But when you do see some of the chimney, if you go online and look at the online photos of them in the roost, like some of these roosts are massive, and they're pretty much stacked on top of each other because the chimneys can only hold so many birds, but yet their mindset is just to roost together. So I also thought that was pretty cool when you seen and even the nesting, like it was pretty cool seeing like how the nest is formed, and the fact that they're not ideally suited for sitting. So
Are they the
No.
nest kind of like a tree swallow, like clayish, muddish kind of?
It's made from their saliva
Okay.
and just like small twigs. So I've never actually seen this, but they will actually fly through trees and be able to like snap really small twigs off in the air.
Really?
So they basically don't perch outside
That's
of
so
their
crazy.
roost.
So they must have a really crazy metabolism. Like, do they just eat all day to like
Oh,
stay
yeah,
flying? Like
yeah.
a hummingbird almost kind of deal. Like, that's wild.
Helping with
Yeah.
our insect
Yeah.
population.
Yeah.
But,
No mosquitoes here.
yeah, so they'll like weave together, and they use their spit, which is kind of like a glue-like substance, and then it's a pretty small nest. So that's something that people are sometimes worried, like if it's nesting in my chimney and it's this big nest, but it's just like a few inches across. I think it's a few inches out. And only an inch
Really?
deep.
Just
so
just enough to hold the egg, pretty well. bare
yeah,
minimum.
just enough to hold the eggs.
That's wild.
Yeah.
what's the average? They only clutch once. One clutch.
They can have two broods, but it's 3 to 5 eggs
Okay.
that they lay each time. Yeah, but they can like nest twice
Right,
in the
okay.
summer. Yeah.
So it is like back to the roost site. We went to Michigan there a couple of years ago now to see one, because we're obviously drawn really by the actual. Where was that roost site? The big one. It was called.
Farmington Heights,
Heights.
and it was called like the Swift Sanctuary.
And-
I'm not familiar with the building now, what
Yeah.
it was, but it was like an old industrial
Yeah, and they
building.
were kind of
then.
converted to sort of modernized for other retailers, but it wasn't really an active. It must have been like an old mill of some description.
It's a huge stack.
It was a huge
Oh,
chimney. It was like,
huge,
pretty much like the
giant.
Heinz ones. Sort of
Oh,
thing.
really?
Yeah.
like,
Wow.
it's huge, and we were promised like seeing 10,000 swifts.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really panning out, and then somebody said, "Oh, there's been a good number using a nursing home's chimney just across the highway." Well, yeah, well, we're enjoying your program, but where's that? So
Yeah.
we kind of skipped town and went over to that, and we reckon there's probably close to 5,000 to 6,000 went into that
Really?
chimney.
It was hard to focus on. Like
Yeah.
I think it was a crude estimate, but like I've never experienced a swift entry like that. Like it was
Blocking out
literally
the sun, kind
Well,
of.
it was pretty much like the sky turned pink, and next minute these things.
Really?
yeah,
That'd
the
be cool.
sunset was like particularly beautiful that night. And if you get that number, like even here at Epworth, you can kind of see like a small
Tornado kinda
cyclone
looking,
tornado
yeah.
with Swiss, but there for like I don't know, it must have been 20 minutes.
Yeah.
They were just a huge
Really?
circle, and it took so long for those first few to go in. So kind of earlier in the evening, you'll have a few drop in, but then where it's hardest to count is they like really go in groups all at once. So you're
They're just
trying to
dive
count
bombing
it.
it.
Yeah,
So,
like, it's quite quick.
It's pretty cool to watch it at the start, because you have got this idea that they are gathering even now. Like we're starting to see more. The sun's not even close to setting, as far as it's still quite high in the sky, but it's only probably 2 hours before it sets here, and it is fascinating. Just over the minutes as it gets closer, some more gather, and it's like they play chicken. It's like they get one will look like it's going to fly in, and then it doesn't. But literally, as soon as you get just past, as soon as sun sets, It just takes one of them. As soon as the one goes, it's like, okay, that's the signal to go. And I'm not. It'd be interesting to see if it was the same bird every night. If
Yeah,
somebody,
just-
Yeah,
if
it's
somebody
like
has that
the
position,
same.
Like
that's their that's their job. They say, okay, it's time to go. But it's just fascinating. And even here, it is good. Now, obviously, you're talking only lasting a minute or two. Where the one in Farming Hills there, it was just. It was the noise too, because even
Stunning.
here you can hear the little shattering
Yep.
off one or two.
There are
There,
thousands.
it was like, again, same thing. It took them probably 15, 20 minutes to gather. You start seeing more and more, but over that period, still, obviously, we weren't seeing the cloud like a cloud length thick, but not 15, 20 minutes. It seemed to be more and more just kept arriving. It was honestly like they were flying into the chimney, coming out the back at the bottom, and going
Doing a
back
little
up.
recycling.
You just think, how is there so many birds in this? And it's fascinating. Even we had the event here a couple of years ago. There was a good crowd showed up. And people are excited. People, you start to draw people's attention to these things. And like saying, you even think they're a cool bird
Yeah.
now. All of a sudden,
I would never gave him much attention, just like seeing them,
Yeah.
right? And then now it's like you hear about there's only one breeding pair per
yeah,
chimney, and there's like so that one with like 5,000 in there only has one.
yeah. Once
Like-
somebody gets to have that as their house,
crazy.
they are an interesting bird. Now, obviously, we've had COVID restrictions over the last couple of years, so events have taken a hit. The counts are still going to be going ahead, right? As far as not officially or unofficially, but people are monitoring sites for counts.
It is basically told, like during the stay-at-home order,
Stay
abide
localized.
by whatever provincial and federal guidelines and from our health unit that are out there. So for a volunteer, it's like kind of up to their discretion if they feel it's appropriate or
Right.
safe to be able to go and do the counts.
And when typically do by the time this comes out, there will be the first count will have happened, right?
Yes. So, well, there was already, there's one this Saturday. So it's May 22nd, and then it's every 4 days. So May 26th, and then 30th, June 3rd,
Okay,
and then June 7th as a final.
so it's pretty a month's worth of counting, really.
Yeah, we have an extra count in Southern Ontario, just because it's the earliest arrival.
Okay.
So we want to catch kind of those bigger numbers that are here. And actually on the early count that we do, sometimes that's when I've had the biggest numbers. So
Okay.
it is pretty good. But then the rest of the counts are being done across all of Canada. So the idea is that you want to try to get like a general snapshot. If you have enough volunteers across Canada and you get a count on like 4 separate nights
Yeah.
over a month, then you can kind of get an idea of their
okay.
population. Yeah.
Is there some
snapshot.
other like extremely large sites in Ontario, or are they mostly all kind of Michigan?
I probably won't be able to think of them offhand. There are sites I've heard of though that have like upwards of 1,000, 2,000 birds in Ontario.
What's their sort of northern range then? Where sort of stop in Toronto? Is there anything higher?
They
Or-
do go up into northern Ontario, but nothing past where you would have like nothing past the tree line
Right.
or anywhere where
Okay.
insects become a bit too scarce.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, how far would they range outside of their roost? Like during the day when they're hunting, like a few
That's
kilometer
a good
radius?
question.
Or?
Yeah, I would say so. You see them all around, like over Kingsville. So if I go through, like around Kingsville for a walk, they can probably, like you say, 2-3 kilometers outside, but all over town. Yeah, it's kind of amazing though, because when you're walking, you see them in the sky, and you maybe see like 30, and then when they start to gather for the roost, there's so many more of them than you would expect every time.
It's interesting to see where are they coming from. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, they just zigzag calling all their buddies as they go
Yeah.
through.
Well, that's it.
Home
Like,
time.
even during the day, I'll always hear them before I see them, right? And it's just that distinctive chattering noise you hear, and then like I'll always look up to see where they are. It's just a fascination I have with them now. It's just as far as song goes, it's just distinct, and you hear it in any setting, right? You could be at some little woodlot, and there'll be some flying around because they're just going after bugs, right? But in the urban setting as well, you hear the same birds chattering, and you look up and there's a few of them.
Oh yeah,
handful.
right downtown Windsor, just
Yeah.
flying over all the time.
Yeah, that's what I was working in Windsor at the start of the week, and same thing, just straight away, just hear this. So oh, there's 3 of them there, so it's pretty good. Now, how many counts in Essex County are there?
like for the spring
yeah.
roost monitoring. Right now we do usually like 4 or 5.
Okay.
We're always looking for more volunteers, where that's a constant struggle in a way. But some of our main ones, there's like the Chelsea Hotel in downtown Windsor. There's another site in Windsor. I can't
One
think
of
of
the
the name of
schools,
it right now.
was it one of
Oh, well, there's the Walkerville Collegiate
Okay.
Institute. So that's another really good roost that has kind of higher numbers. And then there's a volunteer that does the old Leamington High School as well. So we obviously need to find some more sites in Windsor because, I mean, even just across the river in Michigan, if they're getting numbers
yeah.
like 5 to 10,000 in a roost, I feel like there are certainly a number of sites in Windsor that would
Yeah.
have more than what we found so far. But right now we just haven't quite had the volunteers to pull that off. But we're increasing and always expanding how many people we can get out there.
It would be interesting, like, to anybody watching, or if there was enough media coverage to try and get. There's bound to be people out there who are sort of witnessing this thing, and we have found, even just as bird watchers, a lot of those things happen by people who aren't really intensely into the hobby or the pastime or bird watch, whatever you want to call it. Come up with the rarities.
What do you call it in your end of the pond there?
Twitching?
Twitching.
Twitchers.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, so there's people all the time, just your regular people who are seeing these things. So if there was somebody who's watching or hears, or that's the people you want to get in contact with, just because even if they don't do it, you may be able to get then somebody else interested. If you told somebody, we're hearing that there's a rooster and it looks like there's hundreds of birds going in, somebody might just go, oh, I want to go and see that. Okay, well, can you try and count them for us? And
How do you count?
Well, even casual observations are really good too.
Yeah.
If someone happens to see a nest site or a new spring roosting site, it's an email away to be able to get that information into the database. So, at the beginning of a spring roost count, it's fairly easy. Like, you can count individual birds as it goes along. Once the larger numbers start falling in,
And just chaos.
it's pretty chaotic. I usually try to count by 5s or 10s, and you
get those
just do
little
your.
clickers,
I feel like even with a
Yeah.
clicker, it's too fast.
You'd still
but-
have to be doing that. But 5, if you had a clicker, every click would have to be a 5 or a 10.
yeah,
right?
but
Or,
it has to be in
set up like a
groups.
telephoto,
I
slow motion.
have.
Well, yeah. So this has been done just to kind of see like the difference between a counter, what they're able to count,
Just
and
for
if you have a
accuracy and
video, yeah.
Curious, yeah.
Because like you set up a video footage one time, and I mean that would be the best way to capture
Yeah.
exact
Spend
numbers
a
going
weekend
in.
just counting the video.
Although even then, like you're kind of pausing.
Exactly,
and
yeah,
they're
And then you got a
together.
bird behind a bird. You're like,
Yeah.
is that really one? You're
Yeah,
like,
well, and that's it. And you find out, and that's with any bird counts, that the hawk one's another one. Like, so you've got the hawk count this fall, and there's different ones set up along the lake here, coming down to Holiday Beach is the last one here. You find the trends, the numbers are typically similar, close enough to say, this is. When you're doing any kind of bird count, they're not expecting exact numbers. When you do it, you obviously try to get exact number, and if you can, you say there's exactly this many.
Yep.
But with those, whenever like the broadwings are coming by, or the big turkey vulture days, the blue jays,
The blue jays.
like last year was over 1 million blue jays, so that's not like whatever number they finish with. That's not the exact number. But whenever you look at whoever else,
you can visually see a big difference between 5,000, 10,000,
Right.
100,000, and a million.
yeah,
Right? Like
yeah. So it's close enough to see that. Whenever you're up in that there, if you're within 1,000 or a few thousand of somebody else, if you got a broadwing day that's 100,000 broadwings coming by, and the next count has 102,000 broadwings, it's generally accepted. You're anyway. You're just going to say it. You're just going to say, oh, there's about 100,000 broadwings. You're not going to say, oh, there's 100,000, 200, whatever.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
not going to give the exact number that you counted. You're going to give a general number, and that's what they're looking for in any bird count. So it's the same with the Chimney Swifts. If you had an exact count, they'd say fantastic, but
You get a
they're
gold
not.
star.
Nobody's going to believe you,
Yeah, exactly.
and nobody's going to spend the time to try and discredit you. Nobody's going to say, no, I'm going to check to see. You have to have somebody who really doesn't like you to go back and say, no, I'm going to prove him wrong. He said there's exactly this. So
I think of the canvasback counts
Oh,
on the lower
yeah.
Detroit River too, of just how impossible it is when huge numbers that overwinter on the river where it's open, they just like take up because a boat's going through and you're trying to get these counts. And what I find is like a person's count is always conservative and lower
Yeah.
than the reality. Someone once again there took video footage of like canvasbacks just streaming by and got into like the hundreds of thousands, which was, I don't even know that I would ever estimate
Right.
that high, but
Yeah, there's, and then historically, whenever you're in an area where they say there's X amount of the population of the world's birds here, that
Yep.
species, that you can sort of, you're, whenever you think there's like a big number, you're probably pretty true to say that. It's so there is trends. If one year you said there was no canvasbacks on people then sort of, got to check this out.
Yeah.
But if you just turn around and say there's there's 50,000, people go, oh wow, but whenever you come down to the science of it, that's expected. We know that there's 87% of the world's population come here in the winter, so you have an idea that that's going to continue, right?
speaking of global, sorry
No, no.
jump in, but like global population, as you're saying that, so for Chimney Swifts, it's almost 8 million. I was just reading this too. We only have 1% of the Chimney Swift global population in Canada,
really?
which I find like incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
If there are almost 8 million birds and we have still, I guess it's because we're at the northern kind of limits of their range more, and certainly in southern Ontario the population's higher
Right.
than probably
Are they
a
right
lot of
across
Canada.
Canada?
They are.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are they only North American?
Oh, not right across Canada. Sorry, they're only Eastern North
Okay.
American. Yeah. Not
They're just North American. They don't have chimney swifts in any other continent. Is that like 8 million?
Chimney swifts, no, but there
Okay.
are a number of other
Right,
swift
yeah, yeah,
species
yeah.
across the world. Yeah.
So that is even more interesting that it's only 1% and they're only in North America, right? So
yeah.
I guess they've probably see. I have this issue with a lot of the birds that it's the early migrants get the best locations. So we get like grackles and robins and yellow warblers because they all come early in their respective and take up the sites, which means the nice birds that you'd like to see more of have to go further north to nest.
Yep.
Like I'd like to prove that out, but I'm not sure if I ever could. But they just go like, oh, why do we get grackles all the time? Because they've taken all the roosts. They're aggressive, right?
How to appreciate our beautiful grackles.
I appreciate them, but not as many. I'd rather it was just like one, and we all chased it around the county.
Yeah.
Same with
It's
like,
rare.
I mentioned this in one of the other podcasts, the starlings and the house sparrows. You can't begrudge them for being good, right? They adapt to their habitat. They are able to nest anywhere pretty much. So they thrive. That's the other birds that now I know that they're aggressive towards some of the other birds as well, but in general, they will stay year round. Like especially house sparrows. They'll flock up together in the winter, or whatever, and like I'll have them at my feeders more in the winter than I see in the spring and summer now, and it's. You sort of, as much as you don't really want them to be here, I'd be happy if I seen them at home all the time. But in the context of here, you just feel that they're taking up good habitat for other. So the dwindling numbers of some of our other birds, obviously not the chimney swifts in this, but some of our other our sort of North American birds here, we would probably have a better number of them nesting here, but for some of these birds that are aggressive nesters.
In a kind of like general outlook on it, I always just sort of think like the bird itself can never be blamed. Like there
Right.
are birds that are harmful in the environment that are introduced, but really when it comes down to it, that was us that introduced them here. We've altered habitat so much for them to be able to like be in an urban environment. People wanting mute swans originally over here for their ponds and stuff. So, they're very problematic for native birds now, but it was never the fault of that bird in the beginning. Yeah.
The bird can't be blamed for
If anything, you almost do respect them in a way that they have been able to be so adaptive. And like house sparrow and European starling, rock pigeon, these are like across the entire globe and very successful birds.
Yeah, it's almost like there isn't anywhere where they won't go and adapt to.
Yeah.
Obviously, your two extremes of the poles there they're not in, but pretty much everything else there.
Here's a kind of off-topic question.
Totally off topic, eh?
Not totally off topic.
Okay.
Canada goose, is it over in like Europe and at all? It doesn't.
No,
make
we
it
get
that far.
we get the Brant. Actually, the Brant changes his name to Brent as it goes across the Atlantic.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a totally different name for
Really?
some reason. But they're exactly the same birds. It's not even like it's a population. It's the birds that leave Canada, and when they arrive in Europe, Britain, they're called Brent. So they get a name change as well. But I've never. I don't. There probably is records of Canada geese.
There
but,
are records.
It's not.
They probably have a similar trouble that we have here, though, maybe with some of the records, because they also have
Right, people.
domestic
Yeah,
Canada
true, yeah.
geese. So we have domesticated waterfowl over here.
Yep.
So there's always kind of the question if something extremely rare shows up that's like a European
Yeah.
waterfowl.
Like what was
then-
the one up in near Toronto there?
Oh, the
Eddie?
Mandarin.
Yeah. Was it Eddie?
I think that was it.
Eddie?
Wasn't
Eddie?
it Eddie?
Those
Wasn't
ones.
it?
Yeah.
Mandarin duck so far is never, that one is like so out of the question as a, but I mean, boy, do they ever become popular.
Like,
Oh,
birds
that's
crazy, isn't it?
insane.
I think we spoke about this
Yeah,
too
we
before.
did.
It's
That was a good rant.
I'm not going to start again then. But it kind of angers me that they get such good press.
Yeah.
That all of a sudden, like, since they show up. But yeah, we've got other duck, like harlequin duck. If it showed up, it's if we had some harlequins coming up regularly down here, that's just as nice. Get a nice male breeding plumage there of that, and
Absolutely.
obviously our wood duck is fantastic looking. So we do have fantastic looking ducks that we don't need to have the Toronto Sioux and Detroit Sioux bird that are the local. Nick wants to buy a pair of Mandarin
Yeah, I
ducks.
found some on Kijiji. I was gonna put them out in the river in front of the house and just charge parking. But
Oh boy.
we'll see.
But,
We'll see if it goes
but
through.
there's people. I've spoken to people who are saying, "Oh, are you going to go and drive to see that?"
No.
Yeah.
No.
The chase seems maybe a little much. I mean, I kind of understand you get to appreciate this
Yeah.
bird, like sighting or whatever, but
Do people add it on their eBird list?
You can't.
people do put it on their eBird list.
Really?
This is a bit technical, but like I would really like eBird to always just have a domestic
Yeah.
option
Right.
for kind of any species, but particularly for waterfowl, so
Yeah.
that it doesn't like put it in as a rarity, because I'll get alerts on eBird for mandarin duck and all sorts of other
Cinnamon
wild
teal.
things.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, cinnamon teal. But I know they're working on it, but it seems like an easy fix they could do, so
Yeah.
that you could just like say that you had it, because it's kind of interesting data that it's there, but man. And sometimes I even want to put it in my list too. Like when I lived in Toronto, I had a budgie in one of the city parks, and I'm like, I kind of want to
Yeah.
have this on my eBird checklist just for the memory of it, and it was, flying and stuff. But if I put it in, it would count towards my Ontario list, and my number would be off. So there's no way to.
Yeah, because could you add that? Like, say you're doing like a big year. Could you add that in the
Or
No,
so
that would
That's-
be
Just go to the pet shop.
Yeah,
Start
that's what I was
listing
gonna
all
say.
the-
Like, just go to like the zoo and just rack up 30 species.
Yeah.
That's reputation destroying.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
That should have been the fourth guy in the Big Year movie. The guy who just went to pet stores and kind of moved.
Yeah.
I've had I've had two budgies in the wild and a lovebird. So.
Oh yeah.
Around here?
Yeah,
Really?
I'd beside Lacasse Park in Windsor.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a lovebird on the roof of a house. I think I have a picture somewhere. I was working at a lady's house and came out and this thing was perched up there. I was getting close to winter, and so I was thinking, it's not going to do too well. And then the budgies, one was in LaSalle and one was in Leamington, flying around. But you start to see, like, whenever you're whenever I was working, doing a lot more work in residential, a lot of these budgie fanciers and that there start to bring out their cages in the sort of spring, usually before the summer, because it gets too hot in the summer, because they think they've got the tropical bird.
Give it some
They
fresh
bring it
air.
out. A lot of them will have worked out how to open their cages, so that's typically where the escapees come from. But yeah, it is. I find any of the bird, any of the anomalies is always interesting to see. Like whenever somebody reports a leucistic bird, so that's a bird without any color pigment, I still think, like, again, I'd like an avenue to report that, just to say, like, because I do think leucistic birds are on the rise as well. Other than that, either they're really getting reported a lot more, but we're starting, since I've been here, it just seems to be more each year. So I'm not sure if there's a reason for that, if it's been looked into, but I just find it interesting that these things can be seen, and a lot of people don't know what the bird is, because some of them are so white that you can't really tell some of the traits.
Did you see
I
someone
just-
posted like a couple weeks ago? That, I don't remember what kind of warbler it was now, but anyway, say it was a morning warbler, and like its head was like all white, and like
Oh,
his
yeah?
body was yellow. It looked wild. It's crazy.
Oh,
looking.
they look incredible.
Yeah,
I was
it's
just
so
thinking
weird.
though, that is one I've never seen a leucistic swift. How amazing
Oh, that's
that
true,
would be
yeah.
if there was
Yeah,
a
yeah.
white swift.
Oh, that'd be
That
awesome,
would
eh?
be like the,
They'd stick out.
Golden
the
Goose,
holy
eh?
grail
That's good.
out
Yeah,
there.
get
But
shots of it.
It's
That's
funny
a-
because they all almost look like they're just full of soot.
That's probably maybe you've never got a white
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
because
exactly.
they are white and then they come out filthy every day.
Has anyone ever washed one? They're like
They've never
It's
washed
washed,
it to check.
Nobody's caught them because they
yeah,
can't find
good
them.
Dawn commercial for sure.
They can't find them sitting anywhere. So just back to this. So I think we've covered a lot of the information regarding them, the interest of them. So like I said, we've got a few counts coming up. We'll put some information in the show notes regarding some of the details of that there, and if anybody wants to go and see one, if we can put up the sort of local again, if you're able to do so. We don't recommend people doing things that they're not comfortable with, but if you're out for your exercise and you start to notice some chimney swifts, certainly the information would be appreciated. But you said there is an event coming up.
There is. We're having, so usually Birds Canada holds what are called Swift Night Out.
Okay.
And this time, because it has to be virtual during COVID restrictions, it's Swift Night In. So we're going to have a Zoom meeting. Volunteers, anyone from the public, will advertise it through like the Essex County Field Naturalist Club as well, can all attend. And it's like all general information, but also like how to volunteer. So that'll be kind of your entry to the Swift Watch world. So that's on May 31st. It's the Monday night, the last day of.
So this should be
Day.
coming out on the Thursday, which is whatever, a few days to the
Last
27th.
Thursday of May.
This last Thursday, I think it's the 27th. I think I looked at it before this. So this will go out on 27th. Hopefully, anybody watching, if they see that, we'll put some links if you can send that to me or whatever. I'll
Definitely.
get
And
that.
fingers crossed for fall.
Right,
We usually
yes.
do a
Yeah.
Swift night out in Windsor at the Walkerville Collegiate Institute. And like these things do get pretty good attendance because you get people from the local neighborhood that just want to come out and check it out. So I'm hoping in the fall, like in September, is when they start to gather more and head south. So we might be able to hold an event there, but obviously we'll see what happens with that.
So if someone wants to get involved, who do they contact?
So I am kind of like a local contact for Essex Swift Watch. I don't know if you want me to give my email
Well, if you
here
want
or
to,
just
we'll
add
add
it
in,
after. Yeah. So you can email me, or you can also email Megan at Birds Canada. She is the coordinator for all the Ontario Swift Watch.
Okay. Cool.
So those are the two places for any volunteering or questions, or you can even email us just like with data as well. If you find a site on Birds Canada on their nature count site, that's sort of their data entry portal. That's where you can like input data, but sometimes it's easier for people to just email, and we can make sure that it gets to the right place as well. Yeah.
Cool.
So did you have any? Remember, you had a lot of stupid questions in your head.
No, the one was pretty good there at the beginning. What else? Do I got any other stupid ones?
Think you know everything about chimney swifts now?
I think I'm an expert now. Yeah.
Expert.
Yeah. I'll be writing a book tonight, probably on it.
A book, eh?
Yeah. We'll do a plug next one for my published book.
It's going to be published by
Yeah.
the next time. Are you talking about the next year? Whenever
No,
the
next week.
Next week. Self-published.
Yeah, self-published.
One
Be on
copy, limited
Amazon.
edition.
First edition.
That's it.
Yeah.
First and only. Yeah, so no, that's been good. I should say, thanks to our new sponsor night, we did enjoy some. Not sure you can see that. OG's Original Guys Pizza in Harrow, and some great soda pop.
Yeah, this is the
The black cherry did go down a treat with that pizza. So
Butterscotch Beer.
you big fan?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty. I don't know. I'm pretty convinced it's very close to cream soda.
I'll have to try that because I remember whenever I drank mine, I was trying to say what it tastes like. I couldn't think of another.
Do we have cream soda from them? Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
We did have from their old, like the
Yeah.
original recipe stuff. So these were their 6 new ones.
That's delicious.
Yeah, big fan.
Favorite one. And I'm not. I usually like the citrusy pops.
Yeah. Well,
Nailed it.
well done, Jeremy. You've
Yeah.
done. Oh, so Jeremy actually is the guy who owns the soda pop. So
Oh.
I wasn't thanking you for the pop. You didn't.
Yeah,
you
I wasn't involved in that part. Yeah.
What did I miss? Did
I
I
had to
fall
bring
asleep
the
for a
pizza
second? Yeah, so that's been good. Like I say, we'll get all the information on, and hopefully we'll get a few more people interested in this, because like I said, I'm always not sure if I just find these things interesting because I really like it. But I just find whenever you get into it or you see a little bit, it's cool, right? It's
Yes, and I would say the event here showed that like the general public does get really involved. Like we even had members of the congregation of Epworth Church that visited and are interested, and feel a sense of kind of pride as well that they have this church for. I didn't mention this before, but it is a threatened species too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, that's important, I guess.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that at the beginning, but it's like 90% of their global population has declined since 1970. So, the more data we can get and understand what's kind of behind these declines, the more we can help this species too. So,
can you buy? Probably another stupid question.
Here
Buy
we go.
artificial chimneys and put them on your roof, kind of thing.
They've been testing artificial chimneys. I don't know the data there as of yet, if it's been successful, but I do think the focus right now is on kind of protecting the known chimneys that are
because
around
it's
now.
one of them things that if you're going to the hassle of making a false chimney,
Might
it's
as well
probably
build a new
because
one.
you're going to have sort of like mortar ledges inside,
Yeah.
because that's what they attach. So if it was a smooth surface inside, it's not going
Like
to
a PVC pipe.
yeah, it's not just going to slide off. So the effort to go to may be like, well, that's just like saying, just keep what we've got.
Try to protect what we've got now, and because it is a threatened species, there are protections you can have on buildings as well to prevent destruction of that habitat too. So
Do they have any predators besides humans and hawks, maybe? Or
it'd be
it would be any.
just the regular songbird predators, really. That pass
I
around
bet
here.
they're pretty tough to get though.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know about
Unless like a raccoon goes into the chimney,
Just
I
That's
quite the meal
suppose that
there.
would be an easy way to predate if you were able to get like a mammal into the chimney that way. Yeah.
I guess it's probably maybe a little tougher than some other birds, but definitely predators would be a general concern for any. And like a lot of like songbirds as well, like when you look at the sort of success rate, even though a lot of the breeding birds we've got, they say that there's like a really high percentage that don't make it to their first year anyway.
Yeah.
Right, so they have these broods of 5-6 birds, and you'll know. Well, I do personally notice it with swans around here. Even the mute swans you watch, they'll have a brood of 7-8 chicks. Usually by the time they're getting the sort of juvenile age, like they look like an adult bird, there's only 2 maybe left in a brood. So I've seen that just typically year after year, and unless they're having a brood of 7, 8, 9, 10 eggs and successful, they can't protect them all, and their predators get their fill. If they want 3 swans, they'll have 3 swans. So if they only have 3 in a brood, then that's 3 gone. Just think that a lot of these predators, it's like you hope that they get full.
yeah.
They don't want they don't go and search. And again, it's unfortunate with some of them, because like it's even whenever you see a roadkill of a cardinal, you always feel worse than when you see a house sparrow roadkill. It's just that, but that's just a personal, like a humanistic.
Cardinals also pair bond too,
Right,
so it's
it's-
a little sadder there.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
some other species that migrate, find
Right,
a
it's
new
a new
mate
mate straight
every
away,
year.
yeah.
But there's something particularly rough about
Yeah,
birds that pair up year after year.
right. Yeah. So
I think I've
that's
got all
your
my
last stupid question.
I'm sure I got more.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, maybe you can email us.
Yeah, I'll
send,
email us.
send an email to the show and we'll answer
I
your
will,
question.
I will, yeah. All right.
Well, so I think that's it. But
Yeah, that's good.
we appreciated you taking some time to come and speak to us. And
Thank you for having me on.
no, you're welcome. And hopefully some more interest in the Swift watches. So
Yeah.
I'll have to say it's a goodbye from Nick.
A goodbye from Donnie.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Sorry.